Today we'll be looking at the top 10 fighters who refused to hit their opponent. Some of these stopped themselves when told by the referee. Why? Well, just because they're nice people and didn't want to cheat. Others, though, had to literally beg the referee to stop the fight because their opponent was taking a beating, and that was completely unnecessary, and the fight needed to be stopped. Sometimes the referee just messes up, and luckily these fighters were nice enough to stop themselves from hurting someone. But before we start, don't forget to punch the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Also like and share the video with your friends. Number 10. Let's start off with this MMA fight between Mike Pentanko and Jeremy Frazier. Pentanko was winning the fight big time, putting on a serious beating on poor Jeremy Frazier, but then suddenly the most unexpected thing happened. Yeah, you just saw that right. The guy winning the fight tapped out. Mike Pentanko could have been a terrible guy and could have just kept punching this poor guy, but instead he took the loss in order to save this poor guy. This was his explanation.
And I feel like really terrible, so I said this is not me, and I feel like it's an amateur fighter, fight, and we don't get paid.
The only reason I have is, does Jeremy Frazier feel any resentment or anger towards Pentanko from possibly making him look bad? I hope not, and I hope he understands that he was getting destroyed, but based on these images, I think he did. Number 9. Now we have this fight between Roy Jones Jr. and Brannan. This was a pretty quick fight, and it went into the second round where Jones was very much in his prime, still undefeated, so he was putting on a real beating on poor Brannan and put him down in the second round. Brannan was able to recover from the shot and got up but was visibly hurt. Maybe the fight should have been stopped when Jones said, or maybe because earlier Brannan was almost out on his feet. Apparently, the referee later stated that Brannan had seen him the night before at a restaurant and told him not to stop the fight prematurely, so he said he was going to give both fighters the benefit of the doubt and only stopped it once he was on the canvas. Roy Jones was landing too cleanly before the knockout for him not to stop the fight though, but Brannan appealed to his former boxing career and told him that this was his big shot and he gave it to him. Number 8. Now we go to MMA with Francisco Trinaldo beat Herbert with a devastating right hand. This was a long, hard battle between the veteran Trinaldo and debuting Herbert, but in the third round Trinaldo landed this overhand left. This was kind of a delayed knockout, and he went over and looked at the ref signaling that he was out and to stop the fight, but the ref Herb Dean wanted a little more action. But there were some unnecessary punches that landed, and he finally stopped the fight. Later, Dean mentioned that he heard somebody shout from the outside of the octagon to stop the fight, and it turned out to be former MMA fighter Dan Hardy.
Just effortless with that.
What a knockout!
It's not over.
Come on!
It's not over.
Stop the fight!
It's done now. Ronaldo gets the win by knockout.
That's 2 times.
Number 7. Carlos Monzon had an amazing career, fighting 100 times and only lost 3 of them. In his final fight against Rodrigo Valdez, which was their second meeting after Monzon won the first fight, Monzon was defending his belt, and he even got knocked down in this fight in the second round. Later in the third round, Valdez slipped in the corner, and Monzon held himself back. Monzon could have easily let go of his hands, landing punches on Valdez, who wouldn't be able to really defend himself, but instead he held back and let him get situated again. This is incredible restraint by Monzon, and it just makes him look like a great and respectable champion. Monzon did end up winning the fight by unanimous decision.
Finish him, can he really pile it in? He's a bit too wily though, that Monzon, he'll hang on, he'll waltz him around. There he is, see, hanging on there, it's against the rules, but you can't blame a fighter for doing that when he's hurt.
Number 6. Back in 2015, Willis Meehan was boxing against Lee Tato in the heavyweight division and was beating him really clearly. They closed out the first round with Tato barely being able to stand in the corner, and Meehan was looking at the ref with disgust already. In the second round, Meehan was landing clean, heavy punches once again, and Tato was clearly out on his feet, but the referee just kept watching like nothing is happening. How bad do you have to be at your job that the fighter himself has to tell you to stop the fight because the opponent is clearly out, and is receiving unnecessary damage. Those were 42 seconds that were completely unnecessary. I love how Willis Meehan hugs Lee Tato and keeps the ref away from him, since he obviously doesn't care about his health at all. Number 5. Nigel Benn was a very hard-hitting middleweight champion that had 35 knockouts in his 42 wins. In one of his early career fights against Chandler, it took one round for the fight to end. Benn could have easily landed 2 or 3 more shots on Chandler in the sequence, but he showed his great sportsmanship and restraint by holding back, knowing that Chandler was already out, and this fight was already decided. You see tons of fights where boxers keep landing shots, even when the opponent has already put his hand or knee on the ground, but Nigel Benn is a really nice boxer.
For my money, the most exciting prospect in British boxing at the moment, Nigel Benn in the golden trunks.
Number 4. This was a long boxing fight between Michael Ayers and Wayne Rigby. This was the first of 2 fights between these 2 fighters, and it was voted as British Fight of the Year. Michael Ayers was defending his lightweight title against Wayne Rigby. By the 10th round, they were exchanging a crazy amount of punches, but Rigby was hurt by a couple of right hands, and Ayers asked the ref to stop the fight. I don't know if the ref should have stopped this fight, but Rigby was clearly hurt and was extremely tired, almost falling down multiple times. It wasn't until Rigby and Ayers basically agreed to stop the fight that the referee finally called an end to the fight. It's great to see that Ayers didn't want to hurt Rigby and that Rigby was able to recognize that he was done.
Shannon. He has another 15 seconds before he can get that advice. Doesn't look as if he needs an awful lot at the moment.
Number 3. Now we have this boxing fight who many thought was a huge mismatch and never should have happened between the undefeated heavyweight champion Larry Holmes and Marvin Frazier, who only had 10 fights up to that point. The fight only lasted 1 round, including this first knockdown. Frazier got up at the count of 8, but Larry Holmes just moved in to win the fight. Larry Holmes was waving to the referee to stop the fight because it was clearly over, but he just wouldn't do it until he gave him a couple more heavy punches. Holmes then explained later that he didn't want to hurt anybody and wanted the referee to step in. He also said that the kid wasn't ready and he has a long way to go.
Really putting young Frazier in trouble there. Will he get over this first round? The gum shield comes flying out. Bill Zane, the referee, hopefully giving him a...
Number 2. Now we go back to a boxing fight between Bo Jack and Ike Williams. Williams was a champion and Jack was trying to regain the title. The first 3 rounds were close, but Williams finally started to penetrate Jack's defenses. In the 5th round and in the 6th round, he really started to land punches. Jack was completely out on his feet with Williams landing incredibly hard punches, but the referee was a complete fool that day and just kept dancing around trying to look at the fight from all angles. But he just couldn't see any reason to stop it. I don't know how that's even possible, but he didn't stop it until Williams asked him to step in, and he still refused one more time. So Williams landed a couple more brutal punches and the ref finally stopped it. What a horrible job that was. He probably should have stopped it before they even got to the corner. Number 1. Here is an incredible stop by this kickboxer who was putting a pretty good beating on her opponent, and in one of those sequences this incredible pullback happens. That body kick was devastating, and her opponent was unable to cover up, and she was completely uncovered. Luckily, the ref called for a standing count, which stopped the onslaught, but that kick was going with full power right to her head. How did she manage to pull it back? The girl is extremely lucky that the referee was so good, and that her opponent has incredible strength and reflexes to stop that head kick. And that is how we conclude this video. Out of all these clips, which one was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below, and I will handpick and feature your comment in the next video, so don't forget to comment. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you hit the like button to show your support. It was a pleasure to talk to you guys. Please like and share the video with your friends. Until next time.